Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. It's that time of year again, holiday season. The streets are glowing with lights, Christmas music is everywhere, and there's this magical energy in the air. But let's be real for a moment. Along with all that holiday cheer comes one of the most stressful parts of the season: traveling. Whether you're catching a flight to see family, driving hours through holiday traffic, or navigating crowded train stations, it can feel overwhelming. And for some of us, it's not just stressful, it's downright anxiety-inducing.
Absolutely, Adam. The holiday season, while beautiful, tends to amplify everything, the good and the stressful. Travel anxiety is so common this time of year, and it's not just about long lines at security or delayed flights. It's the mental load of packing, the worry about things going wrong, and the pressure to make it to your loved ones on time. We've all been there, feeling that knot in your stomach as the departure date gets closer, or that racing heart when you think about a flight connection you might miss.
And that's exactly why we're here today. This episode is all about you, our listeners who are gearing up to hit the road, the skies, or even the seas this holiday season. We're going to break down travel anxiety, talk about where it comes from, and most importantly, share some really practical strategies to help you not just survive holiday travel, but maybe even enjoy it a little. Whether you're someone who gets a little nervous about leaving home or someone who feels overwhelmed by the chaos of it all, this episode is for you.
And we've got a lot in store for you today. We're going to share personal stories, tips for planning ahead, ways to stay calm in the moment, and even how to turn travel stress into excitement. Because let's face it, this season is about joy and connection. And while travel anxiety might be part of the journey, it doesn't have to ruin it. So, grab your headphones, settle in, and let's figure out how to make your holiday travels a whole lot smoother.
Stay with us, because by the end of this episode, you'll have a toolkit full of ideas to manage your stress, stay present, and make this holiday season one to remember, even if your travel plans get a little bumpy. Let's dive in. All right, let's start with the big question. Why is holiday travel so stressful? I mean, we've all felt it, right? The minute you think about packing, checking flight statuses, or hitting the road, your stress levels just shoot up. For me, it's the sheer volume of people traveling at the same time. Airports feel like madhouses, highways are clogged, and everyone seems to be in a rush. It's like all the calmness of the season vanishes as soon as you step out the door.
That's so true, Adam. And it's not just the crowds. There's also this invisible pressure that comes with holiday travel. You're not just traveling for fun. You're traveling to meet family, to make it to special events, or to live up to traditions. There's this expectation that everything has to go perfectly, and when it doesn't, like if your flight is delayed or you forget something, it feels like you've failed. The stakes just feel so much higher during the holidays.
Exactly. And let's not forget the logistics: tight schedules, multiple stops, and those dreaded layovers. It's like you're trying to fit a whole season's worth of emotions, activities, and connections into a single trip. And then there's the unpredictability: bad weather, canceled flights, or traffic jams. You can plan all you want, but there's always that lingering anxiety about the what-ifs.
Yes. And another thing that makes it worse is the mental load of multitasking. You're trying to pack for yourself, maybe your kids or your partner, while also thinking about gifts, holiday outfits, and making sure you haven't left anything behind. It's no wonder so many people feel overwhelmed before they even step out the door.
Let's not forget the financial stress, too. Holiday travel is expensive, and the idea of spending so much money on flights, gas, gifts, or even hotel stays can add to the anxiety. It's like you're carrying this invisible weight of wanting to make everything perfect, but also trying not to break the bank.
And you know what else makes it tough? The emotional aspect. For some people, the holidays bring up bittersweet feelings. Maybe they're traveling to see family they haven't seen in years, or maybe they're traveling alone for the first time. It's a season loaded with nostalgia, expectations, and sometimes even unresolved family dynamics. That emotional weight makes every little hiccup in the journey feel 10 times bigger.
Absolutely, Sophia. And then there's the social media factor. When you're stuck in an airport or crawling through traffic, you open your phone and see people posting their picture-perfect holiday moments, smiling families, beautifully decorated trees, and stress-free vacations. It's hard not to compare and feel like you're the only one struggling to keep it all together.
Exactly, Adam. Holiday travel stress is this combination of physical, mental, and emotional challenges. But here's the good news. It's not impossible to manage. Once you understand why it feels so overwhelming, you can start taking steps to handle it better. And that's what we're here to help with today.
Right. So, whether it's the packed airports, emotional pressure, or just the chaos of the season, know that you're not alone in feeling this way. And in the next segment, we're going to dive into where travel anxiety comes from and how you can start recognizing the signs before they take over.
Stay tuned, because we're just getting started. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by holiday travel, we've got tips, insights, and stories to help you find a little calm in the chaos. Let's move on.
All right, now that we've covered why holiday travel can feel so stressful, let's dig deeper into understanding travel anxiety itself, what it really is, and how to recognize the signs before they get out of hand. Travel anxiety isn't just about being nervous before a trip. It's a real psychological response to all the stressors that come with getting from point A to point B. I mean, how many of you have experienced that feeling of dread the moment you start packing your bag?
Exactly, Adam. I think a lot of people think of travel anxiety as just worrying about things like flights or schedules, but it's so much more than that. It's the combination of mental and physical reactions to the stress of travel. You know, those moments where your stomach drops just thinking about a long flight, or you're constantly checking your phone for updates, even though there's nothing to worry about yet.
Oh yeah, that constant checking is a big one. I used to do that a lot, especially before a flight or a long drive. I'd check my flight status, then recheck it, then check again, convinced something would go wrong. That constant loop of worry is actually a common sign of anxiety. Your mind is in overdrive, trying to control every little detail to prevent something bad from happening.
And that's where the physical symptoms come in. Anxiety manifests in your body too. You might feel that tightness in your chest, or your heart starts pounding for no clear reason. Your hands might get clammy, and you start to feel restless, unable to sit still or focus. These are all physical signs of anxiety, and they're not just in your head.
Exactly. And sometimes these signs aren't so obvious. They can show up as irritability, fatigue, or a constant sense of unease. You might even find yourself snapping at people or feeling really impatient, even though you know you should be excited or relaxed about the trip. That's your anxiety creeping in.
Another big sign is overthinking every part of your journey. You start to imagine all the worst-case scenarios. What if you miss your flight? What if your luggage gets lost? What if you can't find your way to the hotel? These thoughts can spiral into a full-blown panic, and suddenly the whole trip feels like it's going to be a disaster before it even begins.
And it's important to recognize when you're feeling these signs, because travel anxiety doesn't always happen right before a trip. For some, it can start weeks or even months in advance. It's that low-level anxiety that you don't fully acknowledge until you're packing your bags or driving to the airport. You might not even realize you're anxious until it hits you all at once.
Exactly. And some people might even experience what's known as anticipatory anxiety. It's this constant, nagging feeling about the upcoming trip, and it can actually start affecting your sleep, appetite, and overall mood. It's like your body is constantly preparing for something bad to happen, even though you haven't even left yet.
That's a huge point, Sophia. Sometimes the build-up to the travel itself, packing, making sure everything's in order, becomes a source of stress. You start worrying about missing something or forgetting an important item, and that worry adds layers of anxiety to the trip. And if you're someone who doesn't deal with uncertainty well, travel can feel like a huge risk.
And here's where the emotional side comes in. Travel isn't just about logistics. It's also about the emotional expectations we place on it. You're not just going from one place to another, you're navigating emotions like homesickness, excitement, or maybe even tension if you're traveling to see family or dealing with unresolved issues. These emotional stresses can intensify the anxiety.
Right, so understanding the signs of travel anxiety is key because it's not always obvious. It's not just about feeling nervous, it's about recognizing how it's showing up physically, mentally, and emotionally. Once you can identify these signs, you can start taking action to manage them before they take control.
That's exactly why we're talking about it. The more we recognize the signs of anxiety, the more equipped we'll be to manage it. In the next segment, we're going to dive into some of the practical ways you can reduce anxiety and start feeling more confident about your trip, whether it's a flight, a road trip, or a long train ride.
All right, now that we've unpacked the signs of travel anxiety, it's time to talk about something that can actually help reduce that stress. Planning ahead. I know, planning can feel like another thing to worry about, but the truth is, having a solid plan in place can do wonders for your mental state. It's like giving yourself the gift of control over the uncontrollable aspects of travel.
Exactly, Adam. A little bit of preparation goes a long way. You see, anxiety often comes from uncertainty, when you're not sure what's going to happen or if you've forgotten something. But when you take the time to plan out the details in advance, you automatically reduce that feeling of chaos. It's about giving yourself structure and peace of mind so that you don't have to worry about last-minute surprises.
Let's start with one of the most important aspects, researching your destination. Whether you're flying to a new city, visiting family, or just heading to a different part of town, knowing the ins and outs of your destination helps you feel more confident. From airport layouts to public transportation options to your hotel's check-in policies, knowing these little details can really cut down on the stress once you're on the ground.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite tools for that is travel apps. I swear by apps like Google Maps, FlightAware for flight updates, and even some local apps to learn about traffic patterns or things to do around your hotel. The more information you have, the less there is to stress about once you arrive.
And don't forget about packing. I know we've all been there, rushing to throw things in a bag last minute, only to realize we forgot something crucial. The key is to pack early. Don't wait until the night before. Start planning your outfits and packing essentials a few days ahead. If you've got a checklist, it's even better. Trust me, that extra time will pay off when you're not frantically throwing items in your suitcase and hoping for the best.
That's such a good point, Adam. And when it comes to packing, I recommend making a list. Write down everything you need for the trip: clothes, toiletries, gifts, any documents, and then check it twice. There's nothing worse than showing up at the airport and realizing you left your charger at home or that one jacket you really needed for the trip.
Totally. And when it comes to flights, it's about being prepared for the unexpected. Always check the status of your flight ahead of time, maybe even the day before, just to make sure everything's on track. You'd be surprised at how often flights change or get delayed, especially during peak travel times. Staying informed gives you more control, and that's a huge confidence booster.
Speaking of flight delays, it's also smart to have a backup plan. Now, I'm not saying you need to plan every possible contingency, but knowing what to do if your flight gets delayed, cancelled, or diverted can take a lot of the panic out of the situation. I like to think about the what-ifs and have a mental roadmap of how to handle it if something goes wrong, whether it's finding a different flight, calling the airline for rebooking, or knowing where to find food or a quiet place to wait.
Great point, Sophia. And this applies to driving trips too. If you're hitting the road, don't just rely on your GPS to get you from point A to point B. Plan out rest stops, gas stations, and food options along the way. Sometimes the smallest details, like knowing when to take a break or where to stop, can turn a stressful drive into a much smoother experience.
Definitely. And of course, one of the most important pieces of planning ahead is time management. Travel during the holidays is notoriously unpredictable, so it's always a good idea to leave yourself extra time, whether it's getting to the airport, or driving to a family gathering, I always give myself a cushion for any traffic, long lines, or unexpected delays. You'll be surprised at how much less stressed you feel when you know you have that extra time built in.
Yeah, that extra cushion is key. It's not about rushing through everything. It's about allowing yourself the time to breathe and not feel rushed or panicked. And it goes hand in hand with setting realistic expectations. We've all heard the saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, but it's also true for travel. If you try to squeeze too much into one trip, trying to see every single person or attend every event, you're setting yourself up for burnout. Be kind to yourself and set manageable goals for the trip.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to say no or reschedule if you're feeling overwhelmed. The holidays are meant to be enjoyable, not a marathon of obligations. Planning ahead isn't just about logistics. It's about ensuring you have the time and space to enjoy the season.
Exactly. So, to wrap up this segment, planning ahead is about more than just organizing your trip. It's about reducing uncertainty, taking control of what you can, and setting yourself up for a smoother, less stressful experience. The more you prepare, the less you'll have to worry about, and that allows you to focus on the fun parts of the holidays, seeing loved ones, making memories, and just enjoying the moment. All right, now that we've covered the importance of planning ahead, let's talk about the next step, on-the-go stress management. Because, let's be real, no matter how much you plan, there's always going to be a little unpredictability on your travels. Whether it's a flight delay, long lines at security, or traffic jams, stress can strike at any moment. So how do you keep your cool when things go sideways?
It's a great question, Adam. And the key here is having strategies to fall back on, tools and techniques that can help you manage those stressful moments so they don't snowball into a full-blown anxiety attack. And the good news is, these techniques don't take a lot of time or effort, but they can make all the difference when you're on the move.
Exactly. Let's start with one of my favorites. Deep breathing. Sounds simple, right? But there's actually science behind it. When you're feeling stressed, your body goes into fight or flight mode, which makes your heart race and your breathing shallow. Deep breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your body responsible for calming you down. So, if you're in an airport or on the road, take a moment to stop, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. Inhale for a count of 4, hold for 4, then exhale for 4. Repeat a few times, and you'll notice how much calmer you feel.
I love that one, Adam. It's simple but so effective. Another technique I swear by when I'm traveling is progressive muscle relaxation. This is especially helpful when you're feeling physically tense from all that travel stress, whether it's from cramped airplane seats, holding the wheel for hours, or just sitting still too long. The idea is to tense and then release each muscle group in your body, one by one. Start with your toes, then work your way up to your legs, your torso, and all the way up to your shoulders and face. It's a great way to release built-up tension and help you feel more grounded.
Great point, Sophia. And for me, it's also about mindfulness. When I'm traveling, I try to be present in the moment, rather than letting my mind wander into worries about the future or regrets about the past. For instance, if I'm stuck in a long line or waiting for a delayed flight, instead of fuming about the inconvenience, I focus on what's happening right now, how the people around me are interacting, the sounds in the environment, or the things I can do to make myself more comfortable. Being mindful of the present helps me avoid that spiral of anxiety about what might happen.
That's such a good point. And related to mindfulness, gratitude is another powerful tool. When you're on the go and feeling overwhelmed, try to shift your focus to what you're thankful for. Maybe it's the fact that you're heading to a loved one's house, or that you're safe, or that the weather isn't as bad as you expected. Even in stressful travel moments, there's always something to be grateful for, and that small shift in perspective can dramatically reduce your stress.
Yes, gratitude has this incredible way of turning our focus away from the things we can't control and refocusing it on the things we can. Another technique I've found super helpful is bringing a calming item with you. For some people, it's a scented candle or a favorite book. For others, it's a stress ball or a piece of jewelry that has sentimental value. Having something with you that brings you comfort can be a great way to stay calm during travel chaos.
Totally agree, Adam. And for some people, listening to calming music or podcasts can also work wonders. I've created a little playlist on my phone with my favourite calming songs, and it's become my go-to tool when I'm feeling stressed during a trip. The right tunes can help lower your heart rate, reduce anxiety, and just create a more peaceful atmosphere, even when you're surrounded by chaos.
And speaking of tools, let's talk about keeping your expectations realistic. Sometimes the stress of travel is compounded by expecting everything to go perfectly. But if you can accept that there will be delays, that things might not go as planned, you'll be much more equipped to roll with the punches. It's like preparing yourself mentally for the possibility of things going wrong, so when they do, you're not blindsided by frustration.
Such a great point, Adam. And don't forget the power of stretching and staying hydrated. When you're traveling, your body can become stiff and tired from all the sitting or standing. Taking a few moments to stretch, especially in between long waits or during a break from driving, can really help keep your energy up. And staying hydrated helps maintain your focus and energy, which is crucial when stress starts to take its toll.
Definitely. Staying hydrated is something so many people overlook, but it can make such a difference. And finally, if things really get overwhelming, remember that it's okay to take a break. Step outside for a few minutes, take a walk, or find a quiet corner to gather your thoughts. Giving yourself permission to step away for a minute can help you reset your mind and approach the situation with a fresh perspective.
Exactly. It's all about finding small ways to regain control of the situation so you don't feel like the stress is controlling you. By using these simple on-the-go techniques, breathing, mindfulness, gratitude, and managing expectations, you'll be in a much better place to handle whatever the journey throws at you.
Absolutely. So remember, travel stress is going to happen, but it doesn't have to overwhelm you. With these strategies, you can stay calm, stay grounded, and still enjoy the journey. All right, so now that we've covered some of the basic techniques for managing stress on the go, let's dive into a topic that can really make or break your travel experience: dealing with unexpected challenges. Because let's be real, no matter how well you plan or how many stress management techniques you've got in your back pocket, travel can throw some serious curveballs. And when it does, how do you handle it without losing your cool?
Exactly, Adam. Life doesn't always go as planned, and travel during the holidays is no exception. Flights get delayed, bags get lost, roads get blocked by traffic. There are endless things that can go wrong. But it's how you react to these situations that will determine how stressed you feel. You can't control everything, but you can control how you respond to the challenges that come your way.
That's a really important point. One of the first things I always try to remind myself when things go wrong is to stay calm. Sounds simple, but it's easier said than done, right? When you're standing at the gate, watching your flight get delayed, or when you find out your luggage didn't make it onto the same plane as you, it's easy to go into panic mode. But here's the thing: panicking doesn't solve anything. If anything, it makes everything worse.
Right, Adam. In these situations, I always try to take a deep breath and remind myself that I can figure it out. And one of the best ways to stay calm is to take control of what you can. For example, if your flight's delayed, don't just stand there fuming. Go up to the counter, get information on the delay, and ask if there's anything you can do, whether it's rebooking your flight or getting a voucher for food or accommodations. You're taking action, which helps you feel less helpless.
Exactly. And sometimes the situation just needs a little bit of perspective. Yeah, it's frustrating when your luggage is lost, but will this really matter in the long run? Will this inconvenience affect the core of your trip? Probably not. It's easy to get caught up in the stress of the moment, but often the most difficult challenges are temporary.
Totally. And in those moments, I've learned that patience is key. Take a moment to accept that things won't go perfectly, and that's okay. You're not alone in these challenges. Everyone around you is probably dealing with their own issues. So take a breath, give yourself a little grace, and remember that it's all part of the adventure. Things might not go as smoothly as planned, but they'll eventually get back on track.
Patience is huge. And speaking of patience, one thing that's been really helpful for me when dealing with unexpected challenges is keeping a backup plan. For example, if your flight gets delayed or canceled, it's not just about hoping the airline will fix everything for you. Think about your alternatives. Are there other flights? Can you take a bus or rent a car to get where you need to go? Having a backup plan gives you more options and helps reduce that feeling of helplessness.
Exactly. And something that's helped me when traveling with family, especially during the holidays, is managing expectations. It's easy to expect that everything will be perfect, but the reality is, things can go wrong. Maybe the holiday dinner gets delayed, or someone's running late. Rather than getting upset about things outside your control, try to adjust your expectations and go with the flow. Sometimes the best moments come from unexpected detours.
That's a really good point. And one thing I've found super helpful in these situations is keeping a sense of humor. Yeah, you might be stuck at an airport for hours or facing a major delay, but making light of the situation can really shift your mindset. It might sound a little cheesy, but sometimes cracking a joke or just laughing at how ridiculous the situation is can really help you keep things in perspective and make it a lot more bearable.
Laughter truly is a great stress reliever, and sometimes connecting with others helps too. If you're dealing with a frustrating situation, whether it's a delay, lost luggage, or anything else, talking to others who are in the same boat can make it feel less isolating. You're not the only one going through it, and sharing your experience with someone else can actually lighten the load.
Absolutely. And sometimes all you need is to take a step back and reframe the situation. Instead of viewing the delay or challenge as a major setback, think of it as a chance to practice your resilience. It's an opportunity to test your patience, adaptability, and problem-solving skills. These challenges are, in a way, life's way of showing us how we can handle the unexpected.
You're so right, Adam. And when you reframe it like that, it takes the pressure off. You're not trying to force everything to be perfect. You're just handling what's in front of you the best you can. The more you practice this mindset, the better you'll get at rolling with the punches. So when life throws those curveballs, you won't be knocked out of the game. You'll keep moving forward with confidence.
That's the key to making the best of those unexpected travel challenges. It's all about perspective, patience, and taking action. And remember, at the end of the day, the trip is about the experience, not about things going exactly according to plan. So, the next time you hit a snag on your holiday travel, remember, you've got this. All right, folks, let's switch gears a bit. The holidays are a time for family, and for many of us, that means traveling with kids or elderly family members. But as anyone who's traveled with little ones or seniors knows, it can add an extra layer of stress and complexity to the trip. So how do you handle the unique challenges of traveling with both younger and older generations during the holiday season?
That's such a great point, Adam. Traveling with kids or elderly family members can feel like a whole different ballgame. It's not just about keeping yourself calm, you've also got to keep your loved ones comfortable, entertained, and safe during the journey. But the good news is, with a little extra planning and patience, it's totally possible to make the experience enjoyable for everyone.
Absolutely. So let's start with traveling with kids. I don't know about you, but I've definitely seen a few meltdowns in airports and on flights over the years. And while we can't guarantee a meltdown-free trip, there are some things you can do to make things smoother. The first thing I always recommend is being prepared, especially with snacks, activities, and entertainment. Kids can get restless and bored quickly, so having a small bag of their favorite snacks and toys can go a long way in keeping them occupied and content.
Definitely. Snacks are a lifesaver. And when it comes to entertainment, don't underestimate the power of screen time. I know some parents prefer to limit it, but when you're on a long flight or stuck in a car for hours, a few episodes of their favorite show or a fun app can make a world of difference. I always try to bring along a mix of activities, books, puzzles, colouring books, and then a few tech options as backup. That way, if one thing doesn't work, you've got something else to fall back on.
Such a good strategy. And on top of that, you want to make sure your kids are comfortable. When traveling, especially by plane, I always suggest dressing them in layers. You never know how hot or cold it's going to get in an airport or on a flight, and having options to adjust makes the whole situation much easier. Also, headphones. Kids' noise-canceling headphones can make a huge difference in reducing that travel noise that can make things overwhelming for them.
Exactly. And when it comes to long car rides, frequent breaks are key. Kids get restless, and they need time to move around, stretch, and burn off some energy. Plan your route with plenty of pit stops, rest areas, parks, or even fun places to grab a snack. And speaking of breaks, if you're traveling by plane, try to schedule bathroom breaks during less busy times so you're not caught in long lines when you need to get to the restroom.
Great tip, Sophia. Now, let's talk about traveling with elderly family members, because that comes with its own set of considerations. One of the most important things to keep in mind is mobility. Whether your family member uses a cane, walker, or wheelchair, make sure to check with airlines, hotels, or other transportation providers ahead of time to ensure accessibility options are in place. This will save you a lot of stress when you arrive.
Absolutely, Adam. And when it comes to flights, make sure to book seats with extra legroom if needed. This can make a big difference in comfort, especially for seniors with joint pain or circulation issues. And don't forget about medication. Always pack any essential medications in your carry-on bag and make sure you have more than enough for the trip. It's also helpful to have a list of your family members' medical conditions and prescriptions in case of an emergency.
Yeah, having that backup plan with medications is huge, and if your elderly family member needs extra assistance at the airport or during travel, don't hesitate to ask for help. Many airports offer special assistance services for seniors, like priority boarding or a wheelchair escort. It's worth checking into these services in advance, so you don't feel overwhelmed on the day of travel.
Exactly. And just like with kids, you want to make sure your elderly family members are comfortable throughout the journey. Keep a blanket, a neck pillow, or even a shawl handy, especially for long flights or road trips. Comfort can really reduce stress for them, making the whole travel experience a lot more pleasant.
Another thing to consider with elderly travelers is food and hydration. Sometimes older adults can be sensitive to changes in diet, or they may not feel as thirsty or hungry during the travel day. I always recommend carrying some healthy snacks and making sure they're drinking enough water throughout the trip, especially if you're traveling by plane, since the air can get pretty dry.
Definitely. And speaking of hydration, remember that timing is everything. If your elderly family member is on a specific eating or medication schedule, make sure to plan your meals and breaks around that. It might seem like a lot to think about, but when you're traveling, having that routine in place can help minimize stress for them.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest piece of advice I can give when traveling with both kids and elderly family members is to be flexible. Things won't always go according to plan, and you'll need to adjust on the fly. Maybe you'll have to switch up your schedule a little, or take an extra stop along the way, but as long as you stay adaptable, it will make everything go much more smoothly.
Exactly. Flexibility is key. At the end of the day, the goal is to make the journey enjoyable for everyone, no matter their age. With a little extra planning, patience, and understanding, traveling with kids and elderly family members can be a rewarding experience that creates lifelong memories.
Couldn't agree more, Sophia. And remember, whether you're traveling with kids, seniors, or anyone else, the holidays are about spending time with the people you love. So try to embrace the journey, even when it gets a little tricky. All right, everyone. So far, we've covered a lot of ground when it comes to managing travel anxiety, dealing with unexpected challenges, and navigating the complexities of traveling with kids or elderly family members. But in this next segment, we're going to tackle something really powerful: how to turn anxiety into excitement. Because let's face it, travel can bring a lot of nerves, but it doesn't have to stop you from having an incredible experience.
Exactly, Adam. Anxiety and excitement are actually really similar emotions. Both are connected to anticipation and what's about to happen. The difference is, when you feel anxiety, your mind often focuses on the negative, the what-ifs, and the worst-case scenarios. But excitement, that's all about the positive, the possibilities, and the adventure ahead. So, the key is learning how to reframe that anxious energy into something more positive and empowering.
You're so right, Sophia. And honestly, I've experienced this firsthand. I remember the first time I was about to travel internationally, and I was feeling that familiar sense of nervous excitement, a mix of anxiety about the unknown and excitement about the adventure. But here's what I realized. I was focusing on the wrong part of the journey. I was thinking about all the things that could go wrong, rather than all the things that could go right.
Exactly. And one of the best ways to shift from anxiety to excitement is by reframing your thoughts. When you're feeling anxious, ask yourself, what am I excited about? For example, instead of worrying about a long flight, think about the exciting places you'll see, the people you'll meet, and the memories you'll create. Anxiety tends to focus on the negatives, but excitement can shift your focus to the possibilities.
Right. And another great way to turn that anxiety into excitement is to visualize your trip. Take a moment to close your eyes and imagine how amazing it will feel to reach your destination. Picture yourself enjoying new experiences, seeing beautiful sights, and meeting people. The more vivid and detailed your visualization, the more real and exciting it becomes. Your brain can't always tell the difference between a memory and a vivid visualization. So the more you picture the fun and adventure, the more your anxiety starts to fade.
Exactly. And don't forget the power of positive self-talk. It's so easy to get stuck in a cycle of negative thoughts. You might start thinking things like, what if I miss my flight? Or, what if I forget something important? But here's the thing, those thoughts aren't helping. Instead, try saying things like, I've got this, I'm prepared, and I'm ready for anything that comes my way. Positive affirmations can help transform those anxious feelings into a sense of confidence and excitement.
And Sophia, I love that you mentioned preparation. Because one thing I've learned is that preparation can be a huge antidote to anxiety. When I feel anxious about a trip, I always go back to my list and check everything I need to do, pack, and confirm. That sense of readiness shifts my focus from worry to empowerment. Knowing that I've taken the right steps gives me a sense of control, and that makes me feel more excited than anxious.
Absolutely. And another technique I love is focusing on the present moment. Sometimes when we're feeling anxious about travel, we get overwhelmed by all the things we think might go wrong in the future. But by staying present and focusing on what's happening right now, we can prevent our minds from spiraling. One technique that helps with this is deep breathing. Taking just a few slow, deep breaths can calm your nervous system and bring your focus back to the here and now. And once you're more present, you can start to feel excited about the journey ahead instead of overwhelmed by it.
Great point, Sophia. Breathing exercises are so underrated. And let's not forget about the power of perspective. Sometimes anxiety comes from thinking everything has to be perfect, but travel is all about embracing the unexpected. Those little bumps in the road can actually add to the adventure. Instead of stressing about things not going exactly as planned, try to see them as part of the experience. Every challenge you overcome is just another story to tell, another adventure to add to your journey. And that, in itself, is exciting.
Exactly. And along with that, remember that you are capable. You've navigated travel before, and even if this is your first time traveling somewhere new or over the holidays, you're more resilient than you think. When you start thinking about all the times you've successfully handled stress before, it boosts your confidence and helps turn anxiety into excitement. Your past success in dealing with challenges becomes the fuel to push you forward.
And I think it's important to remember that anxiety is normal. Feeling nervous or anxious about travel is a natural reaction to something new or uncertain. The key is not to fight the anxiety, but to accept it and transform it. Anxiety is a sign that you care about the trip, that it matters to you, and that you're ready to experience something new. So, embrace that feeling and channel it into excitement for the adventure that lies ahead.
Exactly, Adam. It's all about shifting your mindset. And one last tip I'd give to turn anxiety into excitement is to stay curious. Instead of focusing on the things that could go wrong, ask yourself, what's something exciting or new I'll discover today? Traveling is a wonderful opportunity to learn, grow, and explore. The more curious you are, the less room there is for anxiety to take hold.
All right. Now that we've explored ways to turn anxiety into excitement, let's shift gears and dive into something really special: cultural and seasonal travel stories. Traveling during the holidays can offer some of the most memorable and unique experiences, and one of the best parts about it is getting to experience different cultures and traditions. These travel stories can really give us a whole new perspective on the season. Sophia, do you have any stories that come to mind?
Oh, absolutely, Adam. I've been lucky enough to travel during the holiday season, and one of my most memorable experiences was when I spent Christmas in Germany. Now, Germany has such a rich holiday culture, and the Christmas markets there are world famous. Walking through the markets with the smell of mulled wine and roasted chestnuts filling the air was something straight out of a Christmas movie. The whole country really embraces the holiday spirit, and it made me feel like I was part of something much bigger than just the typical holiday experience back home.
Germany's Christmas markets are legendary. I've heard they really take their holiday traditions seriously. What else stood out to you about the holiday season there?
Definitely the Advent traditions. In Germany, the holiday season really kicks off with the first Sunday of Advent. Families come together to light the Advent candles, and there's this cozy, intimate feeling to it all. I remember staying with a host family, and they invited me to join them in lighting the candles and having this warm, festive meal. There was something so magical about it, especially when you're in a completely different culture, celebrating a holiday that feels so familiar yet entirely new at the same time.
That's amazing. I think experiencing the holidays in a new cultural setting really opens your eyes to different ways people celebrate. I remember spending Christmas in Japan a few years ago, and I learned that they celebrate the season quite differently. Christmas isn't as deeply rooted in Japanese culture as it is in some Western countries, but they've adopted some fun, unique traditions, like eating KFC on Christmas Day. It's a tradition that started in the 1970s, and now it's almost as iconic as turkey is in the US for Christmas dinner.
That's so interesting. I love how different cultures put their own spin on holiday traditions. Did you get to try the KFC, Adam?
Oh, you bet I did. And I have to say, it was actually pretty delicious. But what I really loved about being in Japan during the holiday season was the illumination displays, these stunning light festivals that take place in cities across the country. It was magical to walk through these streets filled with millions of twinkling lights, with everyone gathered to enjoy the beauty. It really gave me a sense of how holidays are a universal time for coming together, no matter the cultural background.
That's such a great point, Adam. No matter where you are in the world, the spirit of the season is about connection, joy, and warmth. One place I'd love to visit during the holidays is Iceland. I've heard that Christmas there is absolutely breathtaking, especially with the long nights and the northern lights. People gather with their families and enjoy warm, hearty meals. They also have a unique tradition called the Yule Lads. These mischievous figures who come to town one by one during the 13 days leading up to Christmas, leaving small gifts for children. It sounds so magical and fun.
Iceland definitely sounds like a winter wonderland, and I love how so many holiday traditions are tied to mythology and folklore. It's fascinating how different countries have these little legends that shape how they celebrate. In Norway, for example, there's this idea of julebuk, where people go door to door in costume, singing songs for treats. It's a tradition that goes back hundreds of years, and it really adds a sense of community and fun to the holiday season.
That's so interesting. And speaking of folklore, I can't forget about the Scandinavian tradition of St. Lucia's Day. Celebrated on December 13th, it's all about honouring Saint Lucia, the patron saint of light. In Sweden, young girls dress in white robes with red sashes, wearing wreaths of candles on their heads. It's such a beautiful, symbolic celebration of light during the darkest days of winter.
I love that. There's something so peaceful and serene about that tradition, light overcoming darkness. And it makes me think about how each culture's seasonal traditions have their own way of symbolizing hope, renewal, and togetherness, no matter where you are in the world.
Absolutely. It's the same theme, isn't it? No matter the culture, holiday celebrations are a time to come together, reflect on the year, and look forward to new beginnings. Whether you're lighting candles in Sweden, enjoying KFC in Japan, or walking through Christmas markets in Germany, these traditions give us a deeper sense of connection to the people around us and to the season itself.
That's beautifully said, Sophia. And these cultural experiences during the holidays also help us appreciate the diversity of the world and how people find joy in their own unique ways. That's one of the most amazing things about travel. It opens your eyes to new perspectives, new ways of thinking, and new ways of celebrating.
Exactly. And I think that's why travel during the holiday season is so special. It's not just about the destination, it's about the experience and the stories you gather along the way. The memories we create while traveling, surrounded by different cultures and their traditions, are something we'll carry with us for the rest of our lives.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And speaking of memories, I'd love to hear from our listeners about their own holiday travel stories. Have you experienced a Christmas or holiday season in a country that's completely different from your own? What unique traditions did you encounter? Share your stories with us. We'd love to hear how travel has shaped your holiday experiences.
Absolutely. Feel free to send us your messages or share on social media. We'll be reading through your stories, and who knows, you might inspire someone else to plan their next holiday adventure.
All right, folks, we're getting into one of the most practical segments now: tools and resources for managing travel anxiety. Now, we've talked a lot about the emotional side of travel and how to transform anxiety into excitement. But let's dive deeper into some concrete strategies and resources you can use to stay calm and empowered during your travels.
That's right, Adam. Travel anxiety is real, but luckily, there are a ton of tools out there that can really help. Whether it's apps, books, or simple practices you can use on the go, there's a solution for just about every kind of travel stress. So let's start with some quick practical tools that can make a huge difference.
First up, let's talk about mindfulness apps. These have been an absolute game changer for me. When I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed during a trip, a quick 5-minute meditation or breathing exercise can reset my mind. There are several apps out there, but I'd recommend starting with Headspace or Calm. Both offer short guided meditations that focus on calming the mind, whether you're in a crowded airport, on a long flight, or simply feeling anxious about the unknown.
Absolutely. I've used Headspace many times during travel, and I love their travel-themed meditations. They help center me when I feel out of control. Another app I'd recommend is Breathe. It's got a variety of tools, breathing exercises, guided visualizations, and even specific tools for travel anxiety. You can even use it offline, which is super handy when you're on the go and don't have Wi-Fi access.
Great suggestions. Another fantastic tool for managing anxiety while traveling is travel journaling. Taking a few minutes each day to jot down how you're feeling can help you process emotions and stay grounded. Not only does it release pent-up stress, but it also allows you to reflect on your travel experience from a more mindful perspective. You can keep it simple with a notebook, or if you prefer something more structured, you could use apps like Journey or Day One.
Journaling is such a powerful tool for self-reflection. I love that it allows you to look back on your journey later and see how far you've come. Another practical tool I swear by is music. For me, certain playlists or even calming nature sounds can completely shift my mood. Apps like Spotify or Apple Music have great curated playlists for relaxation or focus. When anxiety starts creeping in, I put on some soothing music, and it works wonders to bring me back to the present moment.
Yes, music can be incredibly healing. I also want to mention the power of breathing exercises. This is a tool that's always available, no matter where you are. One of my favorites is the 4-7-8 breathing technique, which is simple but very effective. You inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, and exhale for 8 seconds. Doing this for just a few rounds helps calm your nervous system and gets you out of that fight or flight mode. It's perfect when you're on a plane or in a stressful situation.
I love the 4-7-8 method too. It's such a quick, easy way to reset. Another resource I'd like to bring up is travel insurance. While it might not seem directly related to anxiety, having that backup protection really alleviates a lot of travel stress. Knowing that if something goes wrong, like a missed flight or cancelled trip, you're covered can help ease a lot of those what-if scenarios that fuel anxiety. Sites like World Nomads or Travel Guard offer great coverage options for travelers.
Great point, Sophia. Knowing that you have that safety net can definitely reduce anxiety around travel unpredictability. Another resource that might surprise you is social media groups or travel forums. For me, connecting with others who've been through similar experiences has been incredibly comforting. Facebook groups, Reddit communities, or travel-specific apps like Travello can connect you with people who share their own tips for managing travel anxiety. Sometimes, just knowing that you're not alone can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Sometimes hearing from others who have overcome the same struggles helps us realize that we're not the only ones feeling anxious. And speaking of support, one thing that I've found really helpful is creating a travel support network. This could be a group of friends, family, or even fellow travelers who you can reach out to when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed. Whether it's a simple text message or a quick phone call, having someone to talk to in those moments of anxiety is priceless.
Such a good point, Sophia. And there's no shame in reaching out when you need that emotional support. Travel isn't always glamorous, and sometimes just having someone to talk to makes all the difference. Another tip I would give is to plan your downtime. I know this sounds counterintuitive when you're trying to see as much as possible on a trip, but having those moments where you can simply rest and recharge will help you manage anxiety. Make sure your itinerary has a balance of adventure and relaxation. Don't overschedule yourself.
Definitely. Overscheduling can lead to burnout and increase anxiety. And Adam, I think this is a great opportunity to mention pre-trip preparation as a tool for managing anxiety. The more prepared you are, the less you'll have to worry about once you're on the road. Research your destination, plan your route, check in with your accommodation, and even look up local emergency numbers. Knowing you've taken all the necessary steps helps you feel more confident and in control.
Exactly. Preparation is the foundation of confidence during travel. And let's not forget about the importance of staying hydrated and getting enough sleep. These are often overlooked, but are crucial for managing stress levels. Dehydration and fatigue can make any situation feel 10 times worse, so make sure to prioritize these simple self-care practices during your trip.
That's so true. A well-rested and well-hydrated traveler is a much calmer traveler. And lastly, I want to mention therapy or counseling apps. There are a lot of resources out there now that can connect you with licensed professionals over the phone or online. Apps like BetterHelp or Talkspace offer great mental health support, especially when you're traveling and might not have access to your regular therapist.
Such great suggestions, Sophia. Whether it's apps, journaling, music, or social support, there are so many ways to manage travel anxiety. The key is finding what works best for you and making it a part of your travel routine. Anxiety is normal, but it doesn't have to rule your experience.
Exactly, Adam. It's all about having the tools in place to handle whatever comes your way. And remember, you're not alone. There's a whole world of resources out there to help you feel calm, confident, and excited about your travels.
Well, We hope this segment has given you some useful tools to manage travel anxiety. Don't forget to check out the links to some of the apps and resources we've mentioned today in the show notes. All right, folks, we've reached the end of today's episode. We've covered a lot of ground on overcoming travel anxiety during the holiday season, from practical tools and resources to personal tips for staying calm and confident on your travels. We hope you found something that resonates with you, whether it's an app to help with mindfulness, a breathing exercise, or just the reassurance that you're not alone in feeling anxious when you're away from home.
Exactly, Adam. Remember, the holidays should be about celebration and connection, not stress and worry. By using some of these tools and techniques, we can make travel a more enjoyable and fulfilling experience, no matter where we are or who we're with. We want to thank you all for tuning in today, and we hope you feel a little more empowered to take on your next holiday adventure with a positive mindset.
And don't forget, if you have your own travel stories or tips for managing travel anxiety, we'd love to hear from you. Share your experiences with us on social media or drop us a message. We might just feature your story in an upcoming episode.
Also, if you've found today's episode helpful, please consider leaving us a review on your podcast platform of choice. Your feedback helps us improve and bring you more content that's valuable to you. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Thanks again for joining us, everyone. Safe travels, happy holidays, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care, everyone, and keep spreading those positive vibes, no matter where your travels take you.